What is going on, guys? This is Earpugs, and in this video we have the 5th episode of the How to Kill series. We have already covered the Warlock, the Druid, the Warrior, and the Rogue, and now we are covering the Mage. The Mage is an extremely cooldown dependent class and will often require a setup to land a kill. While they are a very squishy class, they do have Ice Barrier to make up for that, along with 2 Ice Blocks. They have the most amount of roots in the entire game, while also having spammable CC to top that off. They really don't have that much longevity in Arena because they are very mana dependent, and will often run out of mana fairly quickly. They do have one of the highest bursts in the game, and it's very important to track this. You can always tell when a mage is about to burst because they will summon their water elemental. This pet has an ability called Freeze, which is a castable AoE Nova. Since the pet is actually the one casting it and not the mage can actually line up his Frostbolt Ice Lance combination, and then right as he casts the Frostbolt, put the freeze down to land that shatter. On top of that, the Water Elemental will constantly be casting Water Bolt, which actually does a ton of damage, usually because it's never interrupted and it just constantly is throwing them at the target. This overall makes the Water Elemental one of the mage's most important cooldowns for doing damage. Up next is Ice Block. Now this ability is extremely important to pay attention to because it is truly the difference between winning and losing for a mage. Ice Block makes the mage invulnerable when activated for the next 10 seconds, also causing hypothermia, preventing him from using it in the next 30. A couple of things to pay attention to with this ability is that it actually removes everything, including CCs, so if the mage is polymorphed or silenced, etc., he can simply block and break all of that, so it acts as a second trinket on top of it being a defensive cooldown. A quick tip for this ability is that if you actually lock a mage on Frost, he cannot Ice Block, so if you counterspell him or kick him for the next duration of that kick, he can no longer cast Ice Block. However, if you kick him on a different school of magic and or silence him, he can block out of that. This brings us to our next cooldown, which is called Cold Snap. When activated, it resets all of the cooldowns that the mage has on his Frost abilities, aka Ice Barrier, Ice Block, Icy Veins, Water Elemental, etc. This is a very straightforward ability, but it is one to keep track of because you know that if the mage just popped this, he's very likely about to pop some more cooldowns and try to go for a kill. And lastly, a very important cooldown to be tracking, especially if you are a caster, is Counterspell. This is a very straightforward ability. If it's used on a target, it will simply silence them for 4 seconds, and if that target is casting a spell, it will lock them out of that school for the next 8 seconds. Keep in mind, healers, that this is fully dispellable, so if you see that your teammate has a counterspell on them, taking it off instantly will completely waste the mage's cooldown and is very, very strong. I will now be going over some quick tips for fighting against mages. The number one thing that you need to be fully aware of is that the mage has one guaranteed way to secure a kill, and that is with a shatter. Literally 90% of mages' kills revolve around this, and the only way the mage can guarantee a shatter is with their Water Elemental. Once you hear the Water Elemental get summoned, make sure you are doing everything you can to stop the mage's Frostbolt Ice Lance Shatter combo. Stopping the mage from landing this puts him so behind, it's the equivalent to disarming a warrior. For melees, it is essential that you are waiting the mage's blink. If you use Shadow Step or Intercept to get to the mage while he still has blink, then you are just guaranteeing yourself that he's going to Nova you when you land and then immediately start CCing you or damaging you. Always wait for the mage to blink before committing your cooldowns. For healers, the most common way a mage will try to CC you is by blanket silencing you with Counterspell, then Novaing you in place and casting Polymorph, seeing as there is no way for you to stop him from landing that Polymorph. It is absolutely vital that you tell your teammates when he is doing this, as your teammate has to stop the poly, otherwise it will start a big CC chain on you usually, whether it is with Fears from a Priest or something out of a rogue, etc. Also, always be on a pillar when fighting a mage, seeing as it is much harder for him to cast into you when you are lossing him. Lastly, if you are a caster, be aware that the mage can blink and counterspell you at the same time. What this means is that the mage can be on the other side of a pillar, and before you even see him blink, you will already be CS'd. This happens because Counterspell isn't on a global cooldown, allowing him to CS you and blink in the same exact millisecond, so make sure you are tracking the mage's Counterspell and do not think you are safe from it just because you are behind a pillar. I will be covering every single class in the How to Kill series, so make sure you subscribe for that. Liking the video does help me immensely, and we will see you in the next one.